Welcome to the AI for Career Success video overview by Curt Robbins. We're experts at AI coaching and helping professionals like you and your employees upskill in AI.
So, today we're diving into an issue that comes from a public discussion on LinkedIn back in April of 2024. Professionals were weighing in on several articles, including a really insightful one from the Wall Street Journal by Jennifer Yeh and Catherine Blunt called "Locals Are Using AI to Fight Data Centers Being Built in Their Backyards." What this whole conversation shows us is a really complex and growing conflict between building out essential AI infrastructure and the local communities that are directly in its path.
Here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll frame this new kind of fight. Then, we'll look at the local resistance and what's driving it. After that, we'll explore a pretty significant irony, look beyond the surface-level arguments, and finally, we'll assess the national economic consequences of all this.
At its core, what we're really seeing here is a fundamental clash. We have this necessary, rapid expansion of data centers. They're the physical backbone of the whole AI revolution, and that expansion is creating some major friction inside American communities. It's really become a modern battle between technological progress and that deep-seated value we have for a sense of place. And this isn't just happening in one or two places. We're seeing towns across the country becoming the front lines in this debate. Wilmington, Ohio, for example, is often cited as a sort of microcosm of this national trend. But you see similar disputes flaring up everywhere, from Colorado Springs, Colorado, all the way to Port Washington, Wisconsin, where a group is actually leading the nation's very first anti-data center referendum.
All right, so let's drill down into the specifics. What are the main concerns on the ground? What's really motivating this local resistance?
Well, the arguments coming from residents are pretty consistent and very tangible. They really center on the immense amount of resources these facilities consume. This leads to fears of higher energy bills and major strains on local water supplies. People are also worried about potential environmental damage, the constant noise from cooling systems, and of course a negative hit on their property values. And these grassroots efforts, they've been pretty effective. They've already managed to block or delay about 20 data center projects nationwide.
This brings us to a really fascinating and, frankly, central irony in this conflict. It's one that perfectly illustrates just how pervasive the very technology being contested has become.
This quote from local activist Jessica Baker, which was reported in the Wall Street Journal, just captures the dynamic perfectly. Residents are actually leveraging consumer-grade AI tools to organize their opposition. Think about that. They're using AI to streamline public records requests, to coordinate their advocacy, and to build a stronger case against the very companies that are constructing the industrial-scale AI infrastructure they're fighting.
This tactical irony, however, might just be masking a much more profound, strategic issue. It seems the arguments over land use and resources might just be symptoms of a much deeper societal question. Posing this question really pushes us past the obvious, doesn't it? It forces us to look right under the surface of what seems like a simple zoning dispute and to really consider the underlying anxieties and economic identities that are at play here.
So on the surface, the fight is about zoning, noise, and power usage. But as commentators like Mark Rembert and Brad Beam suggest, the deeper question is really one of economic identity. We're in an era where automation is reshaping the labor market and communities are grappling with what their future role is going to be. They argue that these reactive fights over data centers, well, they reflect a failure of imagination, a lack of a deliberate, forward-looking vision for what a resilient local economy even looks like in a world driven by AI.
So for our final section, let's zoom out and try to understand the national, macroeconomic implications of all these local battles. Because the decisions being made in one town can have ripple effects across the entire country.
In his analysis, Tony Beebe outlines a concept he calls the double loss, and it's pretty compelling. See, regions that block data centers don't actually escape the disruptive effects of AI. They still face workforce displacement as AI tools get adopted across industries. The difference is they forfeit all the potential upsides, things like construction and operations jobs, investments in the energy grid, and being close to innovation hubs. In other words, they get the downside of AI without any of the economic benefits.
This quote from BB really crystallizes the long-term stakes. The geographic location of computing power isn't just an infrastructure issue. It's about the future distribution of economic power, of influence, and ultimately of control.
And that brings this whole conversation back to you. This isn't just some abstract debate happening in rural Ohio or Colorado. It raises a critical question that you should probably be asking within your own industry and your own community.
Thank you for watching. This is where we teach you AI and help you get smarter than your competition.
If you like these videos, use the QR code at the beginning of this video to buy us a coffee, or hire us to coach you or your employees in AI. Please subscribe to the AI for Career Success YouTube channel, and like, comment, and share to help us reach a wider audience.